Hello my Poke people, and welcome one and all to some more Sun and Moon theory and fun. Today it's time to talk alchemy, and buckle up because this is quite the hefty one, but I am very proud of it. We're gonna get a possible evil team intention, a possible new spin on the stone on the bracelet of the protagonist, a new meaning behind the legendaries, and hell, maybe even a legendary alchemy goal represented in the game. So this is gonna be cool. So firstly, why is alchemy related to Sun and Moon? Well, let's start with the starters. You know, that seems like a fairly good idea. We have ourselves the three cores of alchemy, the three primes, and that is mercury, sulfur, and salt, also representing the spirit, the soul, and the body. Now, the symbol for mercury could be said to look like Poplio. His head's the circle, the lines are his ears, and the cross is his body. Sulfur is obviously lit, and that one just lines up very nicely. And then salt could be said to be Rowlet's round body. So initially we can see the starters have themes of the very core of alchemy, and the core of a Pokemon game begins with your starters, so this lines up very well and makes a lot of thematic sense. Now, I do personally think that it's equally likely that Rowlet could actually be the Mercury, because the symbol does look like a horned owl, and Mercury is swift and deadly, much like a bird of prey, and that Salt could indeed be Poplio because the ball shape could represent his nose, or a circus ball that a sea lion could do tricks on, and obviously salt, water, the sea, water Pokemon, I kind of think that works as well. But either way, the fact remains we've got these alchemy themes. Next up, we have Solgaleo itself, and alchemy explains why there's no fire typing on this, because in alchemy, the green lion devouring the sun, which by the way, Solgaleo is said to be a Pokemon that devours the sun, is a big, strong, recurring symbol related to metal alchemy, such as oxidizing copper, for example. And this is a big deal in alchemy. The sun has a lot of important symbolism. It represents kingliness, gold, divine sparking, man, nobility, citrinitas, which we'll get to later on. There's also the alchemical symbol of earth behind the legendaries in their presumable location in the game. And if we take the other basic alchemical elements, earth, water, air, and fire, you could easily apply them to one of the four islands. We've got the lofty mountains representing the air, the fiery volcano one for fire, the big deep caverns for earth, which leaves the starter island for water. And then there's four guardians. The theme of four does seem pretty damn strong. So, this is all well and good, but what does this have to do with anything else? Well, I think it explains the recently revealed forms of the legendaries, Radiant Sun, Solgaleo, and Full Moon Lunala. And I think this also ties into burst attacks or evolutions with the special secrets alluded to with the starters. So, how? Well, the greatest objective of alchemy is the Philosopher's Stone, completing the magnum opus. So what if the bracelet and the stones in the logo are what represents the Philosopher's Stone? What if Lily actually is related to Lysandra through their connection of flowery names and the fact that she's quite mysterious and no one knows really why she's working for the professor? Maybe she's part of the evil team, whether against her will or not, but maybe she's there to steal a stone. That could tie into the evil team's plot, but we'll revisit the evil team in a little bit. So, the magnum opus, creating the Philosopher's Stone, the ultimate tool of alchemy. Well, the first stage is Nigrido, which is the blackening, the chaos stage. It's also putrefaction and decomposition, and blackening in alchemy is represented by a black crow or a raven, and this lines up very nicely with Lunala. Then the second stage is albedo, which is the whiteness, the purification, and this is where Solgaleo's colouring comes in, that pure whiteness, and his fire ties, because fire a lot of the time is said to purify with its flames. The next stage is, as I mentioned earlier, citrinitas, which is the yellowness, and it's this where you get the silver into gold, and it also means the yellowing of the lunar consciousness, the dawning of solar light, and the time when lunar light is no longer necessary. So maybe this is a fusion illusion of Solgaleo and Lunala, or maybe it represents Marshadow, the unrevealed legendary, and completion of the Alola trio, the Rayquaza of the region. This one definitely is a little bit but bear with me. The final stage is Rubido, and this is the success stage. It's representative of gold and the Philosopher's Stone itself, which is said to have red hues, and it also has lots of soul connotations. And this one I think is represented by Magearna, and the scientist that created this 500 years ago, I think, was an alchemist, and it said it's created using the life energy from other Pokemon, which is the ultimate alchemy taboo. Hell, the entire plot of Full Metal Alchemist is based on that initially. It's not something you want to be dabbling in, so I have a feeling that Magearna is the final piece to the magnum opus Philosopher's Stone puzzle, however it's implemented. Whether the soul heart in Magearna's chest is the stone, or it activates the one on your wrist, or maybe they're not related, but there's definitely something akin to that going on here. Okay, so you're probably wondering where I'm going with all of this. So, I believe that the stone on your wrist enables you to use a signature move on a Pokemon with such power that it temporarily transforms it into a burst attacked form. I.e., if you use the stone in conjunction with Solgaleo's Sunsteel Strike, what you get is the Radiant Sun form of Solgaleo. I believe that this stone is intrinsically connected to Magearna, and maybe it was even used by the scientist who made her to create her, and then it got lost over the years and ended up in Alola, and the professor has found it. He's trying to use it to its potential to trigger these move-based transformations. That's why it's its subject of focus and research, but he's not been able to pull it off. He's tried to let the Pokemon attack him to trigger the transformation, but he just can't do it. And on the precipice of giving up, he decides to give it to you, a trainer he's just met that has this promise, this fire, this natural aptitude with Pokemon, thinking that maybe you can bring out the strength of this stone, complete the magnum opus, the 4 stages, one for each 4 island, a trial revolving around either the Guardian or a legendary Pokemon, probably eventually finding where a dormant Magearna is dwelling, and then she reacts to the stone, and that reaction completes the magnum opus and activates it fully and enables you to use the special something about your starter, which is use your starter's signature move with the stone, which will transform it into a powerful form akin to the legendary's glowing form, because they don't change how they look. They're literally just glowing with power after what I believe to be a powerful attack. I think that ties in lovely to the region, the professor, and my previous theory. I mean, look, Solgaleo literally turns into the radiant form in the trailer just before using Sunsteel, so yeah. So, with all this in mind, the evil team, they obviously are going to use the legendary to do something. They will want to turn it into its improved form and achieve their goals, but they've not been able to figure out how to do this, so they're currently still working on just getting the legendary. But they hear about the stone discovered by Kukwe and given to you, and they start to make plans. They have Lily there, who's been watching, and basically a plant to try and report back and and hell, maybe even sees an opportunity to steal the stone if Kukui gets it working, but that's never happened. So now they instruct her to go with you on your journey and, air quotes, help you in your trials, each trial unlocking more of the stone and completing the opus, until eventually she guides you to the legendary and the team where they are waiting, and maybe they steal the stone or forcibly use it to transform the version legendary and control it through the devices that they've been working on before, and try to use it to do whatever their nefarious minds are set to. I still believe permanent eclipse is the most likely, but what they didn't plan on is that A, Lily turning their back on them through the friendship that she's formed with you, and B, you actually learning how to control the stone because you met Magearna, and now you can use your burst attack transform starter to fight the burst attack transformed legendary controlled by the leader of the evil team in an epic final clash that resolves that plotline in the region. All based on the alchemical principle of the Philosopher's Stone's magnum opus writ into a Pokemon story. I know it's potentially far-fetched, and I know it's stretching and got a few holes in, but I think it was time I went for a radical theory that I don't believe anyone else has thought about. So, there you go, everyone. Let me know what you think. I know it's maybe stretching, but I do think it would be a really cool thematic experience, and honestly, definitely is in line with what they said they wanted to do with Sun and Moon. They wanted the legendaries to be more prominent, meeting them and doing these trials and unlocking more of the stone's potential before the final confrontation does make sense. So I think there is some basis for something like this happen, and I think if we look at the alchemy symbolism as well as the bracelet and the inclusion of something along the lines of Ash Greninja-esque mechanically in the game, we can kind of say it all comes together? I don't know, but there you have it. Let me know what you think, like if you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next Poke Time. Goodbye.